Due to the obscene and ridiculous nature of this podcast, listener discretion is strongly advised.
Listen up, you greasy fisher babies. This season of the Secret Society of Fly Tires is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be wetter, thicker, gaping, viscous, and diseased. No condoms allowed this season. We're going in raw. We're going in bareback. No condoms. I don't even want you to be in the same room with a condom while you're listening to this season. Do you hear me? Do you understand me, you dumb little idiot? This season is going to have you eating your own shit and gargling your urine. It's gonna have you sucking down semen as if it were the antidote, which it is. This season is gonna leave you satisfied yet begging for more. How are we gonna accomplish this, you might ask? Well, I'll tell you if you shut the fuck up for a second. The Secret Society of Fly Tires is partnering with an incredible brand who's not only sponsoring this episode, but is sponsoring the entire season. That's right, we signed a contract with none other than the huge multinational conglomerate known as Vital Elements, the parent company of parent companies. Vital Elements makes everything you know and love and hate but have to use anyway because modern lifestyles are truly horrific. We'll be informing you about a veritable bevy of incredible new Vital Elements products and services, and as a listener and subscriber to the Secret Society of Fly Tires, you'll get first access to these cutting-edge products. You'll be the envy of the entire swingers club when you show up to the party with a satchel full of Vital Elements items that nobody else has ever seen before. So strap in, strap on, lube up, open wide, gape out, and get ready for a whole lot of fun coming your way this season on the Secret Society of Fly Tires. And again, no condoms. Just throw them away, throw them out. Get rid of them, I'm serious.
Secret Society of Fly Tires. Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
Secret Society of Fly Tigers? What in the fuck is that?
I'm sick of this phony baloney.
The Secret Society of Fly Tires, the Secret Society of Fly Tires podcast, the best podcast about fly tying.
Thank you, King Cobra. Rest in peace, my sweet gothic prince. And just like that, the little sleep icon next to this podcast is gone. It's me, Marty.
Every day I'm abducted by an alien, and I say I want to not be abducted by an alien for once in my goddamn whole life. I hate the stinky alien in a spaceship full of mud. And the stinky alien makes me smell bad because I'm around him all the damn time. And now my boss asks me, why do you smell like a whole lot of hell?
See? I'm back. Look. It really hasn't been that long since the last episode of Secret Society of Fly Tires, has it? Maybe you're experiencing what UFO contactees refer to as missing time. I never went anywhere. I never left. That isn't true. I don't want to fill you with disinformation right off the bat. I will admit that I should probably be cited for non-compliance due to my absence, which typically incurs a surcharge from the Federal Board of Podcasting. But if you don't tell them, I'm not going to turn myself in. I can't afford another fine, but hopefully the content that I've created will satisfy my debt.
If you just wanted to do the credit card by phone or a routing number by phone, we could satisfy the debt that way.
I'll kick off Season 4 the same way I kick off most days of my life, and that is with an apology. I'm sorry I've been gone so long.
I'm sorry, sir. What the crazy?
I'll go ahead and apologize to all the new guests I have interviewed for Season 4 too. First, because of the long delay in releasing the episode I created with them, and second, because they assumed that agreeing to be interviewed for a podcast would be harmless, and they got into a situation that they never saw coming. You see, the show has gotten even more stupid and sarcastic, and I guess offensive? I honestly don't aim to offend, but for some people, there is a limit to the common penis jokes. But anyways, that's it. That is the absolute last time that I'm going to say sorry on this show forever. In perpetuity. So welcome to Season 4 of Secret Society of Fly Tires, the nail in my professional broadcasting coffin. If you thought this show was absurd before, it's only getting worse. I barely scraped together enough interviews to fill out the schedule. Word of this show being hosted by a buffoon has apparently spread across the fly tying realm. And that's okay, because it's true. You know it, I know it, it's fine. I do have to say that it felt weird and good just being a regular old angler for a while instead of the trusted industry spokesperson that I've become. Instead of tying flies and throwing them into a large Plano box to never be touched again, I actually carefully selected some and attached those to a leader that led to a fly line, and I flung them into the water. I haven't caught much, but I never do, so what's new? Nothing at all. Quit harping on me about it.
Don't you fucking dare talk to me like that, you cunt!
Besides for fishing, I've been busy being a dad and a husband to my family that love me very much. I'm getting that out of the way now because they asked me to stop joking about how much they hate me. They don't hate me, okay? My jokes are just that, jokes. You may not laugh at them. My remarks may sound as if they're not jokes at all because I have self-esteem problems and often imagine most of the people that I interact with as hating me, but that is beside the point. I'm going to try real hard to only joke about how much they love and appreciate me from here on out. Maybe I'll finally convince myself that it's true. Stay tuned into season 4 of this very show to find out. Great teaser, right? I'm teasing my listeners about whether my family loves me or not. Isn't this show supposed to be about fly tying? Barely. Come on, people. I've also been bogged down at my day job, which has grown increasingly busier as I climb the corporate ladder. Back in season 1, I was just an entry-level goon at the prestigious California Department of Wet Stuff, before they redirected my contract over to the Bureau of Government Smells and Interference. It's a tough world to navigate, but I'm finding my way. Now I manage a team of 5 talented analysts in the Northern Division of Grease and Organic Food Waste. To say that my days are action-packed is an understatement. But here I am finding time in my schedule to write absolute nonsense for a group of about 200 like-minded lunatics. I mean that with love, okay? We're in this together. Forever. And yeah, I'm pretty certain that 200 is correct after careful analysis of the podcasting data that the many platforms I use provide me.
What is the internet and what are these devices that serve me data?
I've also decided to once again waste my time in creative efforts writing and performing music with my brother's band, Stella Crest. Playing in a local band has never been more weird than it is now. The Worm would tell me that music should be illegal, and he might be right, but he's never listened to music. And never will. If you also create music, you know what I mean. Even less people listen to my band than listen to this podcast. But I'm having fun with my little baby brother and our pals, and we like to think the music we're making is pretty good.
I like me. My wife likes me. My customers like me.
Our new album might even be out by the time this new season is released. I have no idea when either of those things is going to happen. But if you're listening to me say these words right now, at least one of them happened, and I'll let you guess which one it is. Being in a band and being a podcaster share something in common, at least in my brain. They are both completely embarrassing to admit to someone in person. In fact, admitting that I host a podcast is even more cringe-inducing than me telling someone that I play guitar in a band. Being in a band actually takes some level of talent. Most of the time. I guess that's subjective, but let's not split hairs here. Anyone can have a podcast. You just have to talk. You don't even have to write essays about every topic like I do. You just talk, and most of us can do that. Even little babies. Imagine being serious and telling a stranger that you host a podcast in your spare time. See how lame that feels? And you didn't even do it. You just thought about it. And I'm sorry to anyone listening that isn't able to speak for whatever reason that may be. You could still have a podcast though, because you can just type stuff on a computer and get an AI voice to read it.
Maybe that's what I'm doing right now. Maybe it's what I've been doing this whole time, and that's why I never give you my actual name.
Shit, I wasn't supposed to apologize anymore. I'll restart the clock. Speaking of names, I have a new nickname. You can call me Lil Corn Pudding. Have you ever eaten corn pudding? Well, my aunt makes a mean one, and I enjoy it so much that it earned me the nickname. Feel free to call me that if you ever run into me on the river. I'll know you're in the inner circle, and we'll embrace and share a moment. Jesus Christ, I'm over a page and a half into my first monologue and it's already this stupid. I told you. I seriously thought that I ran out of words after I wrapped up season 3. I was fresh out. No inspiration whatsoever. And I felt like everything I wrote was stupid and that I interviewed most of my guests very poorly. That's probably the real reason it's taken me this long to get new episodes out. I had to find my muse again, and once again, it was the worm. He helped me find my new words to draft 12 new episodes of this program. Him and all the wonderful guests that I have lined up for this season. And I got some good ones too. Some brand new friends of the show, and as usual, a few returning champions. To kick off the new season, it's the one and only Jason Osborn, the owner and operator of the Portland Fly Shop. He's awesome, and is full of knowledge and creativity, and he happens to own a badass fly shop. He's an amazingly talented fly tyer and angler, and I could have talked to him for 10 hours if he let me. I was lucky and grateful that he took some time out of his very busy schedule to yap with Little Corn Puddin' for over an hour. Also on the calendar to fill out the rest of Season 4, I got Jim Kerr, John Hazlitt, Jim Sens and Charlie Allen, Derek Rivchin, McLean from Pelagos Fly Rods. I got Gar Guide Matt Simpson and Grant from Hill Country Flyworks, Ken Myers, Mitch from Mitch's Fly Bench, and a couple more that I'll announce in the upcoming episodes. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be fun. You're gonna like it, I swear. I got a bunch of dumb shit in store for you.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Starting out with a new show sponsor. You might have caught the opening commercial from the show's first real partner, Vital Elements. They will be the sole financial backer for Season 4 of Secret Society of Fly Tires, so get used to it. I'm just happy that I finally have a true sponsor. Vital Elements is a company that really gets me and what I'm trying to do with this show. A sponsor that lets me spread my wings and fly. I mean, what company wouldn't want a direct line to 200 total fools who literally buy anything that I talk about? I've proven that my influence is great and wide. How wide? Not wide enough, some might say. Or just wide enough, says your wife or mom. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have brought your mother into this. I'm typing this the day after Mother's Day, and I would never say such a raunchy thing about the woman who brought you into this world. How dare I make such a statement? Please ask your mother to forgive me for the joke that I made about her spreading her legs to welcome me into her loving embrace. That doesn't count as an apology, by the way. Look, this show is going to be highly sexual this season. That's the theme this time around. Boy, I've come a long way.
That's what she said.
Past themes have been mental health and quitting smoking. This season, I'm just going to get overtly sexual every episode until you all turn this off. It'll save me a lot of trouble and time and energy, so look out. SSFT is getting really horny for Season 4. Extra horny. That's the first time that I've said the name of this show as the acronym on the logo. Have you ever tried to pronounce that? It's just the word soft without the O, which makes it hard, right? See how horny this show is now? Get out of the way, we're going full porno over here. Seriously though, Vital Elements is here to stay. Get used to it. I'll tell you right now that my new sponsor is going to prevent me from getting so many new guests, it might turn off some repeat guests even. But that is just weeding out folks who weren't supposed to be here in the first place. What am I going to do? Please everyone? I please almost no one 99% of the time. The least I can do is laugh while doing it. This show is the only place in my world where I have any real control or authority. I really do what I want and only what I want. It's the only place where I have any shred of perceived respect, and I stand with my advertiser who believes in me. That, and I only promote products that I trust and use. I wouldn't push any product on my listeners that I didn't personally vet. So, enjoy the entertainment. I even added a sarcastic disclaimer to the intro. I guess I have to? It's just me covering my own ass in case a child hears this show and decides to take me to court. And you know what? I'll see you in court, kid.
Then we'll watch court TV and judge for ourselves who's at fault.
I figured after all these years of doing the show and accepting such a high volume of donations from my loyal listeners, I should start thanking them on the show. It's what podcasters do, right? They thank their supporters by name when they donate money for all the entertainment they've worked so hard to provide. So a big shout out to these friends of the show that donated their hard-earned cash to Little Corn Puddin'. Megan Handsaw, Cornelius Stock, Stephen Excitement, Jessica Allergies, Honda Gallon, and Maria Gutterhutch. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
And I want to take this opportunity to say thank you.
This show would not be possible without your very generous donations. If you'd like your name included in future shoutouts, all you have to do is donate via one of the many links in the show notes or on secretsocietyofFlyTires.com. You'll basically be an executive producer if you donate today, so donate now. Right now, actually. Please. And convince everyone you know to do the same thing for the love of God. I'm kidding. I don't want your money. I need your money. Send me a manila envelope full of penny, or Carl's Jr. coupons, anything. My family is literally dying from starvation, and we're all nude because we burnt our clothing for warmth last night. You don't want my kids to go to school nude tomorrow, do you? Then like I said, you really need to donate right fucking now. Please excuse this brief interruption from one of our sponsors.
Introducing Vital Elements, the world's most high-quality dog food. Vital Elements dog food is made from real, healthy, unprocessed ingredients. Ingredients that you know. Ingredients that you can pronounce, like free-range eggs, grass-fed beef, lamb, heritage grain rice, and more. The folks at Vital Elements know how important your dog's health is to you. They know that your dog is a member of the family. They know that nothing is too good for your dog. That's why they have created the perfect dog food. Vital Elements is the only dog food guaranteed to taste exactly like human semen, which we all know is every dog's favorite food. As soon as you open one of the refrigerated pouches of Vital Elements, your hound will come running because they'll be able to smell it. It smells and tastes exactly like human sperm. I can promise you that. Now, I'm not allowed to say if it contains real human fluids, but I will say that I've eaten a few bags of it myself, and I'm very familiar with that flavor. This is the real deal. Sorry, my mouth is watering just thinking about it. If you love your pet, treat it right and feed it Vital Elements dog food. I know your dog will appreciate it. And hey, if you want to taste a bit of it yourself, I won't blame you. Sometimes you've got a hunger for the white stuff and you can't muster enough of it on your own. We've all been there. I'm not here to judge. It's my favorite food too.
Before I start talking about tying flies or fishing or my guest in his fly shop, I'd like to make a correction to some language I used in a few previous episodes.
But I corrected them, sir.
You see, I erroneously referred to fish ejaculate as cum at least twice, probably more, and fish don't make cum. It's referred to as milt in the biz.
What is milt? Fish sperm or sperm-filled reproductive gland, having a creamy texture. Seminal fluid produced by male fish.
This is called milt. Milt is the sperm of fish, and it is edible and delicious in many different species.
The fish reproduction biz is the business that I'm referring to make myself clear. Those professionals and fish themselves call their cum milt, which is a pretty cool word that maybe us humans should use more often. Cum is confusing. It can be used as a verb or a noun, and milt sounds more like just a noun. But maybe it's a verb too. Maybe fish talk about milting all over the river, or they say things like, I'm gonna milt so hard tonight. What do I know? I'm a man, not a fish. I also learned of a new medical use for salmon cum, or milt. People are getting that stuff injected into their face, which sounds highly erotic, but it's just some form of skin rejuvenation. They call it PDRN if you're interested in asking your dermatologist for the treatment. Is that what they call a life hack? From what I've read online, they're still perfecting this new skin rejuvenation technology. Currently, patients who book an appointment are given access to a special sanitized room with a bowl of milt and a roll of paper towels to then apply this themselves however they see fit. I've been told that some offices aren't even sure what fish species or animal the milt is sourced from, so make sure you do your due diligence before booking your treatment. Okay, I know I just restarted the no more apologies clock a few minutes ago, but I need to make another formal apology on behalf of my very good friend with the world record farting skills that I kicked off season 3 talking about. I wish I didn't have to make this apology, but he refuses to provide me the audio I teased last season. I thought with how much I talked it up on the show, he would finally let me have it. But he told me to just find fart audio on YouTube. Your listeners won't know the difference, and that is where he's dead wrong. I know that you all have a highly discerning sense of hearing and would immediately know the audio wasn't legit. My listeners have created and heard many real farts and won't be fooled by imitation. You all are just going to have to come to terms with the fact that you'll never hear that audio. I wish things were different, believe me. If I could change one thing about this world, it would be to change my friend's mind about the talent that they are so ashamed of.
So this is the other problem with shame. When we feel ashamed by something on the internet, our brain cannot see a path to actually achieve that. And then we feel paralyzed.
And for all of us to cry laughing together at the absurd length and almost paper-ripping quality of the sound, and the extreme muscle control used to create these farts. You might think that I could come up with something more important to change about this absolutely insane world we currently live in, but to me, making that audio available on the internet would be the first crack in the dam to open the floodgates. The first step on the road to truth, love, accountability, responsibility, and respect for every living thing on God's green earth. I don't know where I'm going with any of this, but it feels really good to be stupid. I should probably finally bring this around to tying flies and fishing, talking about at least the city of Portland, and maybe my guest Jason Osborn and his Portland fly shop. I'll be honest, I used to think that Portland was basically a giant porta potty. Its name almost has the word porta potty in it. But I was wrong. I had a very limited view for a very long time, just mainly playing divey punk venues in bad areas. I'd be there for like 5 or 6 hours total and not really leave the general area of whatever venue I was at, and that shaped my ignorant view of the city. I got older and wiser, and I started fly fishing though, and now my view is a little different. Sure, there may be a small percentage of Portland that some may consider kinda like a porta potty, but every major city has that. Not every major city is in such close proximity to so many awesome places to fish though, and that may be an understatement. I mean, take your pick from the Clackamas, the Sandy, Willamette, Columbia, Santiam, Cowlitz, Deschutes, McKenzie, Rogue, Umpqua, Wilson, Lewis, and those are just the ones I'm allowed to know about. For at least us West Coast fly anglers, it's a mecca of sorts, and Jason and his crew at the Portland Fly Shop can lead you to the promised land, whether it's for steelhead or carp or anything in between. When I reached out to Jason to introduce myself and invite him on the show, I didn't have an episode topic in mind. I asked Jason to pick a fly pattern or a river that we could use as a central theme for the episode in our chat, and his response to that question was pretty telling. He said, "Can we talk about fly tying in the way of problem solving?" Which is maybe the best answer to that question that I've ever gotten. And from what I've gathered from talking to him and watching so many of the videos he's posted on YouTube, it's kind of the central theme behind his tying and what keeps him interested in the hobby. And fishing too. It's kind of why we all do it, right? It's solving a roguelike puzzle laid out for us by Mother Nature just a little differently every day. Whether it's solving that puzzle on the water or at your desk, tying your own stuff to add just enough of your own ideas or personality into your creation to feel like you had even more to do with solving that puzzle on any given day. Some of the first videos that sent me down the rabbit hole on the Portland Fly Shop YouTube page were Jason's on-the-water research into material colors and flash at different depths and water clarity. It's just absolutely fascinating stuff. And like a good podcast host, I will be linking these up in the show notes if you ever check those out.
You can like and subscribe. You can like and subscribe.
There are a bajillion awesome tying videos on the channel too. I'd rattle them all off, but I kind of did that to kick off the interview with Jason like I was Chris Farley interviewing Paul McCartney on that famous SNL sketch, so you'll just have to listen.
You remember when you were with the Beatles and you were supposed to be dead, and there's all these clues that like you'd play some song backwards and it'd say that Paul is dead, and everyone thought that you were dead or something. Yep. That was a hoax, right?
I will link to them in the show notes like I already told you. God, there's really stuff for everyone on that channel. A ton of swing flies, and there's some nymphs and dries and some tubes. So just look for yourself, okay? You probably already have if you're listening to this show, and if not, shame on you. And shame on me for neglecting it all this time. I've also neglected to tell you any weird Portland lore in this episode so far, so I want to share at least one story before we get into the interview with Jason. Portland is full of weird stuff. The locals even ask us all to keep Portland weird. I don't really think we have to help keep Portland weird. It's just the way it is. But one weird thing that I found that I hadn't heard about until today is a legend about a supposed lost video game called Polybius that is said to have shown up in video arcades in the Portland area in the early 80s. I found an article about it on pdxmonthly.com that is pulling a lot of its info from an episode of a podcast called Radiotopia. I'll link to that in the show notes as well. Anyways, allow me to read through some of the info that I found on it.
Legend has it that in 1981, an arcade cabinet called Polybius briefly took residence in Portland, Oregon. But Polybius was no ordinary video game. Many believe that it was a tool of the United States government to test one's mental and physical agility.
Polybius was the name players later gave to the game, borrowing the name of the Greek historian famous for relying on first-hand accounts. Children who played the arcade game were said to suffer from amnesia, seizures, night terrors, and hallucinations. Despite these adverse effects, the arcade cabinet was described as so addictive that players returned to Polybius repeatedly until they went insane, died, or vanished. The lack of any surviving Polybius cabinets is explained by men in black who were said to record data on the players before removing all the arcade machines. Bobby Feldstein, a gamer who claims he was abducted one afternoon when he was 14 after playing the game at an arcade called Coin Kingdom, said he began experiencing mind-altering side effects. Feldstein claimed he was led through a series of underground tunnels, akin to the tunnels of Portland's Shanghai lore, and was found the next day more than 60 miles from his house in the middle of the Tillamook State Forest, which is my favorite ice cream brand if you were wondering. Feldstein also said there was another boy with him who ended up rescuing him. Feldstein's account isn't the only example of Polybius's lifelong effect. Another gamer named Ernest Klein recalled hearing about Polybius as a whisper across the arcade game floor as a teenager in central Ohio. Today, Klein is the author and screenwriter of the video game dystopian bestsellers Ready Player One and Armada. Klein cites Polybius as an influence on his work, which has turned into a feature film with Steven Spielberg's name attached to it. The game was referenced in an episode of the Marvel TV show Loki, too. It's worked its way into video game pop culture, and somehow, even though I grew up as a Nintendo nerd in the late 80s, early 90s, this is my first time hearing about it. Though the legend permeates, there has never been any solid proof that Polybius ever existed, with only a screenshot of the Polybius title screen upheld as shaky canon. Polybius makes games seem powerful, and it makes games seem kind of potent in mind controlling, said Portland-based author Joe Streckert, who wrote a book called The Legend of Polybius. They really can do something to your behavior, and by making them seem powerful, that gives it a kind of legitimacy. What could possibly give my stupid-ass podcast some legitimacy? Do I need to concoct some kind of urban myth about how dangerous I am? That I'm actually an intelligence asset, collecting data on weird fly anglers across the realm? Please run with that. Let it be known that none of my guests have ever asked me directly if I work for the CIA. So I haven't been obligated to disclose the truth, and I'm not going to start today. If I could stop joking for once in my life, my guest today actually could bring some legitimacy to my little show. He's a respected shop owner, a very talented fly tyer, the godson of Ozzy Osborn, a constant tinkerer, a fish whisperer, and maybe one of the most transparent dudes when it comes to sharing what he learns with people like you and me. We're all lucky that Jason Osborn is one of us and tries to solve the puzzles a lot of us just complain about not knowing the solution to. You're even luckier if you live in the Portland area and the Portland Fly Shop is your local shop. Holy cow, I'd be in there so often they'd either get sick of me or hire me. I'm lucky that Jason agreed to waste an hour with me on Zoom. I hope you enjoyed the very first interview of Season 4. Here it is.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, hey.
Cool.
Man.
How you doing?
Good, man. Nice to meet you virtually, dude.
Yeah, you as well.
My name's Matt. This is my podcast. And,
well, thanks for asking me to be on.
Oh, man. My pleasure's all mine, dude. I've been following you on social media for a long time, and I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, very cool.
Well, I know you didn't have to do this, and I'm very appreciative.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure.
Oh, man. We're recording this in late February, and rivers are huge all over the West Coast. So instead of wrapping up a Sunday on the water, here we are on the internet.
Yeah, well, we needed it.
Yeah, it's true, man. My river's huge. I live on the Lower American here in Sacramento. And
okay.
I mean, I've seen it bigger, but it's fat right now.
Yeah, I think we didn't, I don't know if you got the big dry spell, but it didn't rain for 6 weeks, and it was just ice, everywhere, and the rivers were just a trickle. And so now we're going to be in flood stage by midnight, but whatever, it's fine. I mean, it is what it is, but it'll bring in a lot of fish. So
for sure,
you take your good with your bad, but it's going to be really good. So go through a little bad, and we'll be rolling in dough.
Totally, man. Yeah. So like I was saying, I've been following your shop on social media for a long time, and I, for some reason, just recently started really nerding out on the YouTube channel, and doggy, there's a ton of awesome shit there, man. I mean, I'll link to it in the show notes, like a good podcast host, but some of my favorites, the different intruder props comparison, the materials and color tests. I really liked the miniskirt intruder. It's one of my favorite like little variations. For some reason, it really clicked for me.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah, the cured prawn is great. Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, that one got a little. Most people are like wanting to bobber it, which I get. But I had one guy, I tied him two, and I was like, I don't want to tie these things commercially, but he convinced me to tie him two, and he's like, and he's a gear guy, and he's just gonna squirt smelly jelly all over him and troll him,
Dude,
All right.
that's one of those patterns that just kind of wows you with how real it looks, dude. It's great.
Yeah.
I liked the dirty hoe video. I thought it explained the pattern really well for me. Like I can watch I can watch how to tie a clouser, like 5 different dudes explain it, and like one of them will really click for me, and like the dirty hoe video for your explanation would really work for me.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome. Well, I mean, that's the whole point, I mean, it's hard. I'm kind of running out of stuff because, most people that do YouTube, they'll pick a pattern and they'll tie that pattern. And so much of it gets repetitive. And I've always wanted to not do a specific pattern, but do techniques because I really want people to be creative, like I think techniques are more important. And if patterns are so restricting, like this has to be purple and that has to be blue when you're going by name of pattern. And I think just leaving it open and just showing techniques, at least for me, is, I really want people to just kind of go mad scientist,
Yeah, man, that's rad. Yeah. Speaking of your long form video on composite loops, super informative. I think it takes a certain kind of person to watch an hour YouTube video about composite loops, but I loved it, man. And I've been, spinning up composite loops for a while myself and kind of like bypassed all that stuff, like really kind of like digging into like the whys and hows and stuff of it and just kind of like following instructions that I see on YouTube. So that was really helpful for me to kind of backtrack into. It's really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I also
cool.
I really dug the Ultra Rig GP intruder video, a little like mashup kind of pattern. It was super cool.
Yeah, I know some of that stuff is almost obsolete now because we can't get the materials. Golden pheasant is like worth more than gold. And then, I did a Thunder and Lightning tube video years ago that had blue-eared pheasant, and to this day I have people like, where can I get the blue-eared pheasant? Like it's amazing how in feather world things just become just gone. With import laws and export laws and all that stuff. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, man. I got a golden pheasant, like a full one, shortly before everybody was freaking out about them, being hard to get. I guess I lucked out.
Yeah, I mean, use it on a night you're feeling good about your tie-in because once it's gone, that's it. She's done. But at least for now, I don't know. We'll see what happens. With everything changes, right? I mean, nothing's ever constant. So we could see him back here in a year, who knows? But
who knows, man? Yeah. I'm getting ahead of myself though. Like I'm bypassing all the basic stuff, and I like to ask a couple basic questions here to kick things off. So we already know that you're the owner of the Portland Fly Shop, and I usually ask my guests where they're located, but that answers that.
Yeah.
Were you born and raised in Portland?
I was born in Portland and then raised between Portland, Boise, and Vancouver, Washington.
Oh, cool.
So we were in Boise for like 8 years when I was real young. My mom worked for Boise Cascade, and then when I was really young, I mean, we're talking like late 80s, early 90s. But, I was born in 80s, so at 10 years old, 11 years old, in Boise, Idaho, you give a kid a roll of quarters and a BMX bike in the late 80s, and it's like go time,
Yeah, right on.
But and then Vancouver, when we moved back to Vancouver. So, but most everything's been Pacific Northwest rooted, but I was born in Portland.
Right on, man. Yeah, my little brother lives in Vancouver there.
Okay.
So
nice.
I come up to visit him every once in a great while. So how did you end up opening a fly shop then? I mean, I'd love to hear the origin story. I know you're celebrating a 10-year anniversary coming up before you know
I
it
think
now.
it's getting close, yeah. Well, I mean, it was just kind of I guided forever. And, the thing about guiding is, well, I had a corporate, a normal corporate, dress nice button down shirt, like outside sales gig. and we were in the electrical industry. And so I got laid off in the 2008 housing crash. And, I am not built for a cubicle. I mean, it's just not. I never liked the job. It was just kind of one of those, like, this is how you're supposed to go through life, and so when I got laid off, I was basically like, this is my opportunity. I've got a year's worth of unemployment to guide and kind of make it go of my passion or whatever. So that's how I started guiding. And then so I guided for, boy, I don't know. I mean, I was a busy guide, full-time guide for maybe 14 years and 15 years maybe. And, I mean, through all that, there's marriage and fatherhood, and I almost had like a little mini midlife crisis, if you will, when we lost our steelhead numbers. When we had fish, I was really, really busy. And then all of a sudden, one year, just the fish didn't show up. And then the next year, the fish didn't show up. And then all of a sudden, nobody's calling for trips, and so it became very apparent that life would always be feast or famine. There's no like making it to a certain level and being able to kind of coast, or there was just, it was always going to be a struggle.
Yeah.
But it's like, no matter how good you are, it's always going to be a struggle. And so that's when I decided it was time to do something a little bigger picture,
Right.
And the shop was, I mean, I'm not really qualified to do much else at this juncture, man. I've spent so much time fishing and on the rivers and doing, it's almost like you have a certain amount of time to figure out what you're going to do, and so, the shop was pretty natural, like next course of action, if you will.
That's cool. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, man. I mean, I've always applauded guides depending, like the dependence on Mother Nature to cooperate like that, right? And like to be dependent on that for your living is, I don't know, sketchy is the right word, but in a way, it's like so much out of your control. And so yeah, I mean, that's a all caution to the wind kind of, I'm doing what I love kind of move that I always appreciate. And yeah, it's got to be tough.
No, your highs are highs and your lows are lows. I mean, it's it's the most bipolar job you could have, honestly.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the fly shop makes a lot of sense. Like, what do you think's been the key to the longevity of the shop? Is it just like how much? I mean, there's so much fishing around Portland.
Yeah, believe it or not, it's harder now than it was when we first started.
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah, by quite a bit actually. But we're pretty
just like
fortunate in the
online sales and stuff like that, and Amazon and everything.
Yeah. I mean, and then, COVID really changed the demographic of all these downtown locations. A lot of the money moved away. And then, with all the people working from home and everything, all a lot of our downtowns, not just my shop, but downtowns kind of everywhere throughout the country, our main people moved out, moved away. And so our whole demographic has changed. So we're not selling nearly as much high end as we used to, which hurts. And then, when COVID hit and a lot of these companies really made a push for direct to consumer sales, they really got addicted to that profit margin really fast. And so, my competition on, waiters or whatever, like, isn't necessarily like it's other shops, but my main competition is the manufacturer for sure. And they're really driving that, to home, like the direct to consumer sales. I mean, with free shipping, free returns, all the stuff they promised they would never do when they first started doing this. Now they're all doing it,
At the same time, I feel like that COVID era, like got a whole bunch of new people fishing too, like a whole bunch of new people into the sport,
It did. I bet we probably retained 10% that are sticking with it. Probably 10%. Which is
after that. That's interesting. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's so much used stuff on Marketplace that got used once or whatever. We probably kept 10%, which is kind of what I thought we would. Honestly, I knew going into it wasn't going to stick, for most people. But if we could retain 10%, that's a pretty, really, I mean, kind of a success story.
For sure. Yeah, it's already a niche within a niche, right?
Oh, we're the smallest industry known to man. I mean, fly fishing does about $750 million a year nationally. To put that in perspective, model trains do 900 million. And in Washington state alone, conventional in 23 did 9 billion.
That's wild.
So
the model train comparison is good.
Yeah, 900 million versus fly fishing, which is 750. Yeah, so we're tiny. I mean, we think we're big, and if you're in our world, it seems like we're big, but we're not. We're just a, especially compared to other industries. Like working in the electrical industry and stuff. You see the amount of money just flowing around in construction, and you're just like, wow, we are nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you break it off into even more little subgroups, right? Like spay and whatever, where it's like you're even more niche, right? And I mean, this podcast is very niche. I mean, it's like it's fly tying kind of specific, but even then, it's barely about fly tying. I'm just meeting people that I'm interested to talk to, and then putting together a bunch of other weird stuff to go along and make an episode. It's super niche stuff.
Sure.
So, do you have any like when did you start? When did you start tying your own flies? Was it like right away when you started fishing? Or?
I started tying first at 14. I started tying flies. Yeah, at 14, and I don't know how. I couldn't tell you why I started tying. Well, I mean, I know why I started tying first is because I didn't have a driver's license and I couldn't go fishing without help from mom or dad. So tying was something I could do, in my room or whatever as a kid. So, but I couldn't tell you what got me interested in fly fishing or fly tying. Living in Boise was what got me interested in fly fishing, just because I would see people doing it, as a kid, riding your bike, and they'd be fly fishing the Boise, or there's a couple lakes like in town behind restaurants, and we would eat at like a Red Robin. There's a lake behind a Red Robin. We would eat at the Red Robin, and I'd see people fly fishing in this bluegill lake, and it just intrigued me immediately. Like I was immediately fascinated and intrigued.
Enjoying it,
and so that's kind of what got me.
Bottomless fries and watching them out the back window.
Yeah, eating steak fries and watching people catch bluegill. Yeah, but I was immediately drawn to it. Like it clicked immediately just seeing it. And then so in the beginning, I was taking my mom's. So my both of my parents, they were divorced when I was 8 months old, but they're both in their own right very outdoorsy. And my mom would take me fishing quite a bit, and she had her own tackle box. We'd go to the Deschutes around Lapine all the time and stuff. And so I would take her bait hooks and then rob her sewing kit and take all the threads, and then I'd be pulling feathers out of my pillow to make flies that I would see in like Cabela's catalogs. Like that's all I had was a Cabela's catalog with the flies, all just laid on a blue page. But I would just try to copy what I saw. But in the beginning, all my flies were. I didn't realize that flies were tied 3-dimensional. I'd never actually seen a real fly. I've never been to a fly shop yet, So all my flies were thin as paper. When you flipped them, they looked like the picture.
Wow.
But then if you flipped them towards you, they were too tiny as a sheet of paper. Like, because I had no idea that they were tied, in the round, if you will.
Yeah. Man, that's too
cool.
I
wish I still had some. I was like, I would figure eight like chicken feathers, straight up and down for a hackle, because I didn't know that it was wrapped. I had no idea.
Yeah, man, that's wild. I mean, we're spoiled now.
It's pretty fun.
We're so spoiled with being able to watch whatever we want and learn how to do whatever we want right away. Man, okay. I made a note. About these flat flies for later that I got to ask you on a different question. That's funny, man. That's funny, man. So do you have any signature patterns that you sell in your shop that are like your patterns?
Yeah. So Aqua has my patterns, and then I, once a year submit some new ones. But Aqua's got the mini skirt. Aqua's got the Sputnik, and they've got a salmon fly drive of mine called the Dragon Wagon. They've got quite a few of my patterns, yeah. And there's more coming out in next year.
It's good. It's my one's.
But Doug at Aqua is the only one. What's that?
Oh, I was just gonna say I ask one stupid question every interview where I should have known that you had some in the Aquaflies catalog already.
Oh no, it's fine. That's no big deal. Yeah, it's not a dumb question at all. Doug that owns Aqua, he's the only one who could actually tie them kind of how they're meant to be tied. And
all right. So
yeah, weird. We got this weird, like it just started.
Yeah.
It didn't happen the whole time.
Hopefully it just catches back up. So this is kind of a unique interview for my show. We don't have a theme or a specific topic, which was your idea, and I should have expected this from you because it's why I dig your videos. Honestly, you're a problem solver, and it seems to me that that's what motivates you the most when it comes to fly tying, and I'll assume fishing too. So I'm stoked to kind of do something a little different. But what have been some issues that you feel that you've addressed in creative ways behind the vise? One that comes to mind right away for me was the convertible tube fly on your YouTube channel.
Sure. Yeah, that came about because there's a major difference between fishing a run and fishing a tail out.
Yeah.
You know, fishing the gut versus fishing the tail out. And so often people are inherently just, especially winter steelheading when you're cold, it's real easy to get, lazy, I guess, or lose your steam.
For sure, yeah.
And especially if it's been a slow day, and you're, now it's like 2 p.m. Everybody starts the day like hot to trot. And if you notice, like even floating down a river, you see at 8 a.m., everybody's fishing real hard. And then 3 o'clock rolls around and some guys aren't even fishing and some of them are just barely, you know what I mean? You just lose your steam, especially if it's been a slow day. And so what I would find is, we would oftentimes pull up too early in a tail out because our flies are getting snagged all the time. And I've seen it so many times where you get back in the boat and where you should be changing a tip or changing a fly and taking the 3 minutes it takes to do that and really finishing out the run. You just reel up because you're getting snagged up and it's a pain in the butt. And then you'd get in the boat and we'd float over like 2 or 3 fish, one fish, but you would float over fish all the time that you probably could have hooked if you just would have stayed in it, And so that came about just because like you wouldn't have to put on a new tip necessarily or put on a new fly or whatever. You could just pop the weight off what you already got and then to get back to it, So it was just kind of a cure for, I don't want to say laziness, but it's just hard when after a day of fishing and you've worked your butt off or whatever, and your dreams of hooking a fish are fading as the sun's going down. You know what I'm saying? So it was just a way of trying to combat that.
A Swiss Army knife kind of move. I dig it. I pay more attention to like fly size and weight, color, my leader length and size and things like that. And do you have any set protocol for selecting like a weight and length of sink tip when you're out swinging flies?
Yeah, I do. So my goal is to I want to make the fish deal with my fly. I don't want it to be easy to ignore, because if you think about a steelhead, they're getting junk just passing by their head, like above them, below them, like leaves, moss, whatever, just river debris.
Okay.
And that stuff's happening all the time, And so what I always try to do is get in a position where my fly is impossible to ignore. They have to deal with it. It's either going to hit them, or they have to move, or they have to react, but some way they have to interact with my fly, and that is my goal always. I want it impossible to ignor.
I like that. They have to deal with it.
Yeah, like, or it's gonna hit them. Like that's my goal. Like it's you either move, eat it, or it's gonna whack you. And so my protocol is usually I try to find bottom immediately. Like the first thing I'll do is actually try to get snagged up a little, and then I'll work up from there, because so many times, if you throw out and like, let's say the run's 6 feet deep and you never touch bottom, like we really don't know, most fish are about a foot, maybe 2 feet up off the bottom, maybe 6 inches, depending on the run or whatever. But, they're usually hugging the slower current, behind rocks. I mean, they all, we know they need structure and they need protection from the current. So that obviously means they're down in the water column pretty deep. So if we never snag up, we really don't know where we're at. We can kind of get a guess, but most people don't realize how like most people think they're deeper than they really are, and so I always try to find bottom first and then work up. And then I know I really have a strong idea of where I am, and every once in a while, if I kind of lose, if the river speeds up or if it's getting a little deeper, then I'll try to get snagged up again and just kind of just feel my way
Start
through it
over.
that way.
Yeah.
That way I know I'm not just wasting time,
Yeah, I guess that's logical. It's like the same attitude as like covering water, right? I mean, just from bottom to top
Well, yeah.
instead of covering the space in a radius around you or whatever.
Well, I'm not convinced, everybody says the swung fly is harder to catch fish, and it is absolutely. It's the hardest way to catch a steelhead. But then, but why? Like, why is it? Is it the swung presentation, or is it because jigs, like they eat jigs like crazy. I don't think a fly is any less effective than a jig. I think the jig is in the zone.
Yeah.
For where the jig stays in the zone it needs to be in, and it gets seen by more fish, and I really think that is the differentiating factor.
Yeah.
Even the bead, like nymphing the bead, it I don't necessarily think it's so much the bead as I think it's where the bead is in the river,
Yeah. That makes sense too. Yeah. I mean, I'm lazy, definitely guilty of being lazy on the water, and I definitely don't put a ton of thought into fly selection. I mean, like people that swing flies and look for anadromous fish always emphasize using whatever you have confidence in, right? Which is cool because of the freedom that gives you, but also that freedom can potentially like paint you into a corner. Like for me specifically, I don't catch a lot of fish on my home river. And I feel like, I mean, besides for there's not a ton of fish per mile, and I'm not a pro. I mean, I fish flies that are probably less productive in general on my local water. I like brighter colors and winter steelheady type stuff, and usually on the larger
respect
side.
that.
And I think my fly preference has definitely contributed to how few fish I catch.
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, we're dealing in so much of theory. I think if we could have a Q&A with, well, I think if we had a Q&A with 100 different steelhead, we'd actually get 100 different answers. I don't think any one fish is really the same. It doesn't seem to be that way. It seems to be they're very much an individual type of species.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's hard to say. Like we really don't know, and so everything we do is based on theory. And with that, it's like I tend to go down the overanalyzation road, but at the same time, like the same theory can apply. Like in your case, if you have confidence with the fly, well, what does that mean? That could be way more important. Having confidence in your fly means you're not thinking about changing your fly all day. You're actually fishing the water really effectively because you know that fly works and that fly's gonna work, and you have confidence. So you're focused more on where you're fishing. So who's to say you could be. I mean, who's to say what's right or wrong about? We're living in a world of who the hell knows.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I know that I know that I have had confidence in flies that I've caught no fish in, no fish on, for long periods of time for sure. But I still feel good about fishing them. I don't know.
Well, I mean, like I said, that could be easily as important, maybe more important than picking a color or picking a pattern.
Yeah,
like who's to say? I mean, if you got confidence in a fly, that means you're fishing better.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man, you're leading me into some good questions here that I had ready for you. So thank you. So anyone who's listening hasn't seen it yet, I'll link to the video in the show notes, and I highly recommend you check it out. But what do you think's your biggest takeaway from your underwater color and like material tests?
The flash one I did was super interesting, seeing what flash, what changes color at depth and what stays,
Yeah.
what collects light,
Yeah.
like what keeps light, what loses light, what like copper just turns to brown, at a certain depth.
Turn into the same color at certain depths was really interesting.
Right. And it got me using a lot more of like crinkle mirror flash for sure. I mean, that crinkle mirror flash just, it pulled any ambient light and used it, and so I've changed how I tie flies. I've changed what materials I use just based on what I've seen. There's some leech patterns I used to use that really don't move at all. They're just kind of when you blow on them on your vise or whatever, they seem to look good, but then in the water, they're just turds. And, I find myself using a lot more light materials. What the biggest thing I found is weight makes a huge difference in overall movement.
Okay.
So right now I'm working on some patterns that I'm going to go test, and I've tested some, but I've got it. We blew out. Otherwise, we'd have another video up on it right now. But with the snow kind of stopped me, and then I actually tried to go, but I couldn't. I could get my boat in, but I couldn't get it back out with the snow. But how do I create movement? So now that we've got a bunch of water, and we're going to be fishing really slow insides instead of the deep trenches. How do I get my flies to move? Like, how do I get maximum movement with minimal current?
Yeah, without any pushing it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what I've been working on now and testing is what are the combinations of getting absolute maximum movement with little to no current when we're fishing these really slow insides. And so that's kind of been the next chapter, I guess, of total geek out mode.
Yeah, that's your next problem to solve. That's rad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's cool because you can see in real time, what works, what doesn't,
Yeah.
and
it was super interesting to see, like you're saying, the movement of certain materials where like when they finally got completely wet, like in the video, and like how much more movement they got when they were kind of all they were matted up for a while in there when you think they're totally wet. Interesting to see all this stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's, and it makes sense when you think about it. I had a guy comment and I was like, well, duh. And, everything we're using that's providing insulation for these animals in the wintertime, everything we're using is providing insulation to animals, right? So of course it's going to of course it's going to do its job, even though it's still not connected to a living animal. It's still doing its job, and keeping these critters warm. And so by creating air pockets, and so like, it was kind of a well, duh moment for me. Like, of course that makes sense. But it's kind of cool to see, like, even though this fox isn't connected to a living fox anymore, it still does its job.
Yeah, that is really cool. I mean, it's kind of what has been selling me finally on buying a swim tank. Like, I've never had one, and just seeing that type of stuff where after it's swimming for 5 minutes or whatever it is, that gets it into its sweet spot. Finally, you figure that stuff out, and a lot of the time, I don't know, I get on the river, I'm not paying attention to that specifically. I'll make sure it's wet and sinking, and that's about it. And then I start fishing it.
Yeah, I've just started stepping on them. I'll just throw them in the river and like find a sandy spot or a muddy spot. I just throw it in the river and step on it with my wading boot.
Yeah,
and it's like good to go.
I've definitely seen other people say to like rub them in the dirt on on the shore. Yeah.
Yeah, and the colder it is, the less likely I am to put my hand in the water. So I'll just step on it.
Yeah. So same kind of question for your intruder prop video. There's a video that you posted where you kind of went through the three kind of, I guess, most popular, props for intruder type of flies. Like you did the composite loop, and then you did what I think the loop was all synthetic. I could be wrong. And then you had one that was fox, and then you had feathers, right? And
yes.
Is there anything from that like has made you gravitate to using one of those more than the other, or do you just think they're all kind of situational and personal preference?
I think they're all situational, actually. So the fox obviously creates the biggest profile, creates the biggest prop. If you're using the stiffer tips, of the fox, and at the same time, what I've come to the conclusion is that the flies that stay the big, if you really want a big fly, there's no way you can get a really big fly and a big profile and still have it easy to cast. And so in the shop, that's probably our main complaint with these big flies is everyone used to fish big flies, but a lot of people can't cast them. And so you have to make a decision, right? Am I doing this to cast good all day, or am I doing this to hook a fish? So once you realize that, okay, for a while my casting is going to suck because I'm fishing a really big fly because it's 20 degrees outside, then you can stop caring about other people thinking you can't cast, and you start fishing better. So if I'm after big, then I use fox. And actually now I'm starting to mix some other things with the fox, like bucktail, for this new thing I'm doing for like, how do you create, big flies that move with no current? Mixing bucktail in with the fox is working really good.
Huh.
But like summer situations, like when when the river's low and clear and I don't want to spook them, but I still want something with some profile, like a smaller intruder type fly with some movement, then I'll go to the feathers. The composite loop's really kind of there in the middle. The composite loop is cool because it's not the biggest prop. It's not going to stay open as much as just pure fox in the river, but it offers layers of color, and it offers a lot of translucency. And so the composite loop is really cool in regards to motion and in regards of translucency and kind of layers. It blends really well, So like, yeah, basically those three, I won't necessarily use feathers in the wintertime. That's more of like a true summer, like July, August, early September, warm weather thing, where I fish a lot of olives and, more natural colors. Yeah. But, most of the time in the winter, I'm either rolling really big or some sort of medium like composite loop. Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, that's kind of what, speaking of hard to cast big flies, that's kind of what's pushed me towards tube flies recently. Been fishing more tube flies because it just does seem to be lighter in general and easier to cast a little bit.
Yeah, they don't get down though. They are substantially lighter in the current than shanks. Shanks will dig in that river, like they're so much denser, and so
you think a big
it's
difference?
Good to have a mix, it's good to have a mix.
I was going to say, you think it's
a huge difference. I've seen it on the. Sorry, I keep interrupting you. Sorry about that.
I was going to say big difference if you're going to use a brass tube though. Like maybe with a brass tube, would you, get down in the same time as a shank?
It'll get better, but it's still full of air.
Yeah, I guess so.
You're still casting something that's got a lot of air in it until it flushes out. But yeah, shanks will, I've noticed it huge in these underwater tests where, the whole reason I built a new jig, was because the shanked flies were they were so much deeper than the tubes that the wood I had to mount the little clips on the original jig, the weighted, like the shanked intruders would sit behind that wood. They would sink faster and they'd sit behind that wood and I wouldn't get any true motion out of them.
Oh, wow.
So the whole reason I even built a whole new jig was because of shanked intruders were just heavier and I couldn't get a true motion. They would just get sucked up behind the mounting wood and they wouldn't do anything. They would just twist and everything else. So yeah, they're substantially deeper. Yeah, 100%.
Man, these if I was you and I was like coming across these like almost epiphany type moments, I'd just be cracking up like out in the boat, with my giant jig behind me, trying to figure all this stuff out, and finally having these realizations that I've been doing things wrong for so long, and assuming certain things that you never knew. It's too cool, man. That's the really inspiring stuff. You'd think that like the fly tying, I go to the YouTube channel you have for all the fly tying videos, and it's these videos of you dragging materials behind your boat that have been like the real, really, really fucking inspiring and interesting ones for sure.
It's been a lot of fun. It truly has been, and the people are really digging it, and so it's more motivation for me to keep doing it. But everything below the surface is such a mystery, and so it's really fun to try to maybe solve some of these mysteries, because shoot, once you're, we're above ground creatures, like everything in the ocean, everything in water is it's just a huge like question mark of what's really going on. And so it's pretty neat to be able to, grab an old GoPro and get after it. And then, like I say, I've got a little jet boat and I've got a boat ramp 6 minutes from my house. So it's really easy.
And yeah, as I was, back to color and stuff, I was binging your channel and you just posted about it again yesterday or something, where you have this color wheel where I think you have laminated ones from the shop now, right? And I'll link to the video.
Yeah, so you can stick them in the river.
Yeah. Can you explain a little bit more how to use that tool, like on the water, and making it like a more educated decision on what color to use?
Yeah, 100%. So, rivers change color as different light hits them and different conditions. Like right now they're chocolate milk, and I did a video which was pretty awesome the other day where the river was very, very blue, and then the sun hit it. We got some bright, some light, and then the river turned totally green. I mean, the whole river just changed color. And then, summer, like midsummer is usually a blue tint. Winter, when we've got some runoff or winter weather, it's usually a green tint. And so different colors again. So I want to be seen, right? Like we were saying earlier, like I want to be seen. I want the fish to deal with my fly. And so the studies are that the rods and the cones in a steelhead's eye are directly affected by their body temperature, and their body temperature is the river temperature.
Okay.
So the colder it is, the harder time they have seeing. And so the theory is, well, if they have a harder time seeing, like let's fish something that's in direct contrast with the color of the water, so it's much, much easier to be seen. And you'll see that in, trout anglers have been doing that, forever. I've read, early books that people like fishing Adams, on dark days because of the contrast. And why does a purple chubby work so much better in low light? It's, because it's contrast. And so the fish can see it. Why, when steelhead, we always want the sun to the side or behind a steelhead. Well, why is that? It's because, you look at the sun, you can't see anything. It just gets lost in light. So being seen, especially when we're fishing in times where it's much harder for the fish to physically see, that's where I started really diving in to this whole color thing. And it started with, I guided a guy years ago. His last name is Rabideau. And he was an Alaska gear angler and caught a ton of salmon. And he started, this was years ago, but he started telling me, like, even for salmon and stuff, he's like, bait, whatever, I don't care about bait. He's like, it's all about color. It's all about color. And he's like, you don't need sand shrimp, you don't need eggs for these fish. It's all about the color. And so that kind of started getting me thinking, for a long time. And then when we decided to really kind of tackle social media and really get aggressive with it, I was like, well, now here we go. Because I've been playing with it, in guiding, and I've been playing with it just kind of myself for a while. And then it just kind of progressed into something that's like, everybody kind of wanted to learn more. And I had the capabilities of, with the jig and making jigs and a GoPro, like we're just going to do it,
Brad, man. I hope to snag one of those things from the shop there. It's something that I want to be more mindful of.
I'll send you one.
Yeah.
The color wheel has all different shades of the color on it. So even like it's got your evening light, it's got your daytime light, it's all these different shades. And so you basically just grab it and stick it under the water a couple feet, and you can see which color stands out, pretty quickly. It'll be evident like which color is going to stand out the most and contrast the most versus that day you're on the water.
That's rad. Yeah, man. Awesome. I think sounds like a crucial tool. Let's see. Before I move on from the tube thing, do you have any tips for getting tubes down? Would you just recommend putting like more weight than you think you would need?
Well, again, now you're dealing with castability things. I fish a ton of tubes. I do. I just fish them in areas where I want them to stay up. Like that's kind of the goal, is for them not to just find the bottom.
So are you going to be fishing more tubes with the river up?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep. When we're going to be fishing all these really slow insides for a while, absolutely, I'll be fishing tubes. Okay. Shanks will just find the bottom and get snagged up, like right in the prime. Right when you really want movement and you want them to swing in, a shank will just find the bottom. I fish shanks almost exclusively in really low water, where we're fishing real deep tanks where the fish are holed up. And then when it's high like this and the fish are on the move on these traveling lanes and these softer traveling lanes, that's when I fish tubes. I would say, tubes tubes originated for Atlantic salmon. The Europeans, I think for Atlantics, like, the tube flies over the last 10, 15 years have really just taken over the shanked classics. And they're still fishing a bunch of the shanked classics but for the bigger flies, well, a lot of flies, actually, most all flies, the tubes have taken over. But Atlantic salmon are way more aggressive than our steelhead. I mean, they move up in the water column. They're a better dry fly fish, and so the tubes, we take a ton from the Atlantic salmon anglers as steelheaders. I mean, if you look at a greenbutt skunk and a rusty rat, it's like, I know where we got this. I know where we got these designs from. So, even to in a sense, where when we're talking about the intruders and the leeches, I mean, this whole motion idea came from Atlantic salmon, where we want our flies to move and look alive and all this. That came from, the temple dog flies of Atlantic salmon anglers. So the development of the intruder is probably the only true steelhead invention, I would say. The Skagit head for sure, but as far as fly tying goes, I would say the intruder is about the only thing we can truly call American. Everything else has really been, even the stinger hook idea. The Europeans were doing that with those Waddington shanks long before, we started doing it. And so, we've a lot of what we do for steelhead, we don't even know really if we're fishing for them the right way, right? We're fishing for them like Atlantic salmon anglers fish for Atlantic salmon, and it just came over. But like, how do we even know we're fishing for these things right? We just borrowed Atlantic salmon ideas. So with the tubes and stuff, it's the shanks are just, I don't know. I would just say, like, you want both. You honestly, you really just want both. You can overweight tubes to get down a little faster, but then you're sacrificing, castability and in the sense of just when you could just tie in a shank and get the job done, and it'd be a lot easier to fish.
Yeah, I hear that, man. Very insightful stuff, man. I didn't know what I was going to learn from you today, and I've been learning a whole bunch, man. And this dirty water talk and the high water talk is perfect timing for you. I saw that you're on Thursday Night Flies with my pals Jim and Charlie this week, and you're doing dirty water fly patterns, right? That's the challenge.
No, that'd be fun. That'd be fun. I like those guys a lot.
Man, I don't know if you've been watching that. I've been paying attention to them since they started doing them, and it's so fun and it's super inspiring. They're posting all kinds of stuff that other people are tying, and it's like it really gets you thinking. With their weekly challenge, it's been a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, no, they're good dudes, and Jim's been tying custom flies for the shop for a long time. He's just an incredible tyer.
Yeah,
and so it's been pretty fun. I'm happy to be on. It'll be a kick.
Yeah, I'll be watching, man. Have you tied anything up for you yet? You had any ideas?
Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I just told him I could do it today.
Yeah.
And so,
oh yeah.
I mean, I don't even know how to get in. I don't even know how to get on Instagram Live. I'm gonna have to call Jim and have him walk me through it. So I don't even know what I'm gonna do yet, but we'll see. I'll do something. I'm sure I'll figure it out. But we'll see if we even get to tying flies. I don't know. There's three of us. We could just start. Who knows where this is gonna go.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that conversation, man. Those guys are great. And I've fished with Charlie, haven't fished with Jim,
goofy.
But I've had a chance to hang out with Jim, and he's a hoot, man. Love them both.
Oh yeah, he's a ton of fun to fish with. Yeah.
I only got a couple more questions for you, man. So, and I hope this isn't rude. I do my best to support fly shops, even more so since my local shop closed its doors a little while ago, and those of us that go to these places know that there's way more value within there than just a bunch of stuff to buy, and I order from a number of them online, and I make a point to visit shops whenever I go to a new place to fish. And that being said, what do you think are some materials that tyers can find at like party supply stores, craft stores, that work just the same? It never fails that when I feel like I find some sweet deal on like guinea feathers or something like that at a craft store, I get home and the bag is mostly garbage.
Yeah, that's what I would say is the quality, the selection of quality you're going to get, from a shop that, I mean, we buy anymore. You have to be pretty good, right? Like the tyers have gotten so scrutinizing, and the shop owners, if a shop owner, not all shops get into tying, but the shops that tie and we're pretty scrutinizing too. Like I just won't buy certain things from certain companies. And so the craft store, you'll get some peacock and you'll get some guinea, but the quality, if you actually price it per feather, it's incredibly expensive going the craft world.
Oh yeah.
But you're just not going to get the quality. I mean, you might be able to get away with it with some trout stuff. Ostrich is going to be all over craft stores, but you're not going to be able to get the color range. You'll get peacock, but you won't get as big of a pack. I mean, if you're in a pinch, you're in a pinch. I would say that believe it or not, and I shouldn't say it because the powers that be that sell it might get mad at me, but for the trout anglers, you can make a killing if you just buy your foam at a craft store.
Oh yeah, that's pretty obvious stuff. I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah, I mean, even I'll buy the sticky back foam at a craft store, and then for my like triple stack salmon flies and stuff, it's just so much easier just to buy a sticky back foam and stick them together. But I would say that I bet you a lot of the stuff that's on spools and tinsels and things like that all originated, in craft world, and it just got adapted and maybe dyed or shredded or something for our purposes. There's a lot of things I think that start out in craft world, like the Mylars and all that, but eventually find its refined use in fly tying from the the tying companies and distributors around the nation. So I would say if you go to a craft store, I wouldn't be looking for stuff that's readily available in a tying shop just because you're going to get better quality and more of it in a package at a shop. But what I would say is if you're looking for stuff that you want to be creative with, if you're
not afraid of wasting it. Yeah.
Well, and if you're just looking for creative ideas, like if you just need inspiration, I think that's where the craft stores come into play is you can look at things that you would never think of in fly tying. I mean, I'll walk through craft stores quite a bit and look at the yarns. I mean, there's some yarns that I use for stone nymphs in craft stores that are just some of the most amazing blends with a little flash mixed in, and I'll use those for stonefly nymphs.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Glass beads, obviously, you want to buy at a craft store if you're using glass beads. The glass beads in tying shops actually truly are a ripoff based on how we have to buy them. If you just, glass beads at a craft store is a no-brainer. You get a lifetime supply for like $4. And then your balance leech pins, your balance leech little beads, not the tungsten beads, but the little glass bead behind them. Those are all easy craft store items. But when we're just talking about general materials, like I just walk through just to see colors and I try to get inspired with just different materials maybe I don't even think of. I had a guy years ago who tied a fly with a piece of Velcro sticking off the back. And he swore up and down that it would get, caught in their teeth and he'd get a little bit longer for him to eat the fly, and just stuff like that.
Yeah, man. That's cool. Well, you've been inspiring me with all these videos and all these tests and stuff. Are there any tires out there that are inspiring you right now? Anybody that I should be checking out?
I mean, besides the OGs, the O'Donnell, the Ward, and the Frenches of the world, I still watch their stuff from the early days. But honestly, I couldn't even tell you who's who because you just kind of scroll on your phone. But if you just spend, an hour on Instagram just looking at how much talent is out there, it's really hard not to be inspired. I mean, I don't know if the social media has increased people's talent or if the talent's always been there and we just get to see it, but I think one feeds the other for sure. But man, there is some unreal fly tires out there taking the time just to post stuff on social media, for us to dork out on. And really, I mean, honestly, you just spend an hour just flipping through reels or whatever and looking at fly tires. And I couldn't tell you who's who, to be honest, because I don't, half the time it's not their name. It's just, wax hair 2000 and here's my fly. But the inspiration's all over the place. I tend to go in tunnel vision. I'll get an idea in my head and then I just got to work it until I figure it out. But, my inspiration comes from other tires for sure. I mean, I'm not the most original designer. I mean, I'll find better materials or whatever, or different materials or different ways to get things done. But I very much need inspiration, from other people for sure. Like I still find a ton of inspiration. Even, what's cool is the new people, like the people that are just getting going. I mean, the new people that are maybe only in it a couple months. They're the ones figuring out better mousetraps because they haven't been told how to.
Yeah.
They're figuring it out, and a lot of times they're just figuring out easier ways and cooler ways to do stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat to watch these new people work through some problem solving, fly tying, and it's just like you just look at it, you're like, well, duh, like how come we didn't think of that 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Because they're just left to their own devices to figure stuff out, and so, I would just get on Instagram or TikTok or whatever you're on, and just look through what people are tying, because there's, everything can be morphed into what you like. It's a ton of it out there. It's really amazing to see what people are coming up with and what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's an endless stream of new people that I can't get enough myself. And Thursday Night Flies showcasing a bunch of people that I had never heard of before, and all this stuff they're working on with these challenges. That's super inspiring and cool. It's cool. It's like a crochet circle every week where everybody's getting together and doing something cool. It's rad, man.
Well, I love it when people are excited to do these things. We've kind of maybe hopefully come full circle in the world of internet and social media, where maybe, it got pretty dark there for a while, where you couldn't even post anything when people were just bashing you and stuff. And it seems like we've kind of turned the corner maybe a little bit. And there's a lot of cool, like uplifting stuff, and like what those guys are doing is uplifting to me, and it's getting people excited, and it's getting juices flowing, and kind of pumping that stoke, and it's cool to see people excited about tying and fishing, and that's really the most important thing for me is people getting excited and enjoying what we have.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do with my podcast, and then selfishly meeting all these people that I want to talk to, and learning from them, and then introducing them to people that listen to my show too, and I have the last question I got for you, Jason, is not fishing related, but I ask every guest if they have ever had a paranormal or supernatural experience that they'd be willing to share.
Oh man, I lived in a haunted house when I was a kid.
Oh yeah?
Oh yeah. When I was a kid, so all right. So now everybody's going to tune out, and they're going to be like, all right, well, no wonder this guy geeks out on flies and does underwater. I promise I'm pretty normal. But yeah, when I was a kid, our TV would turn on and off, and I would cry to my mom, and I would tell her that the beep beeps were going to get me. And then craziest
what
thing
was the beep? What is the beep beep? What do you mean?
I can't remember like what they are. I was younger, but so to this day, my radio would turn on, and it would always be good vibrations from the beach.
Jesus
from the beach
Christ Almighty,
dude,
that's creepy, dude. Yeah,
and it would always be that song, and it would always be like that little ghosty, like ooh, that part. Man. That's the part it would be, and I will to this day, I will never hear that song without thinking of that. Yeah,
you just get goosebumps with the Beach Boys.
Some weird's going on.
So, how long did you live at that house for?
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. It was in Gresham. Yeah, I was really young, but it stuck with me. Yeah, for sure.
Man. Yeah, I
want a Bigfoot paranormal experience, but I just can't seem to get one. So
me too.
That's what I'd really like.
Yeah. Well, you're supposedly in like one of the hot zones, right?
Yeah, I just when people really believe in Bigfoot, they just seem to have more fun in the woods than I do.
Yeah.
I get a little jealous. So
that's true. Oh man, I love all that stuff. Experience. I love it all, man. I want to experience all that stuff too, very badly. In fact, with this whole like drone thing on the East Coast, I don't know if you paid attention to any of that and all the drone sightings and stuff. And I'm a big UFO geek, and I walk my dog every night. I'm gonna walk her right after we're done here, and I'm out there drone hunting. Well, sky watching, looking around, trying to find where's the orbs at, and it's a really interesting time if you're into that kind of stuff. And
all right, so this is something I've mentioned a few times to my buddies, but we're living in the weirdest possible time frame I think maybe we could. So the government announces that yes, there's UFOs and they believe they're living on our oceans, right? Like this
Sure.
actually happened.
Yeah, they've given some locations almost. Yeah.
And so, like 30 years ago, that would have been on the front page of every single newspaper. It would be the only thing people talked about. I mean, look what Orson Welles did with War of the Worlds, right?
Yeah,
Like just a radio broadcast of, I mean, it was, and now this day and age, like it's like just a fleeting little news story.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, the government just confirmed that there's UFOs, and people are just kind of like, oh, yeah. And to me, it's just it's like, how is that not on the front page of every single newspaper on the planet? And we're just nonchalant,
Yeah, like a
wild
testament
to me.
is a testament to how much we don't trust the government. Is that all it is? Like,
I guess, like,
no?
or maybe we're all just so self-absorbed into our own lives, but it's just insane to me. Like
You're right. Yeah.
we're just so nonchalant about the government admitting that they've been hiding UFOs for like 100. It's just like,
But how is it affecting me?
crazy.
How is it affecting me on the daily? Right? Yeah, I agree.
Serious,
I talk to a lot of
wild.
people who have no interest at all, and which is surprising to me, especially now. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can dig into and that is super interesting. And there's definitely something there, something about it. There's a lot of opinions right now, and who knows what the truth is, but
Yeah, who knows? But I mean, at some point we'll find out, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Hopefully it's good.
I have a couple questions for you that I want to ask you after we're done with this interview. Jason, thank you so much, man, for wasting an hour yapping about flies and fishing and
it's cool.
Colors and water clarity and all this stuff. I really appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. Thanks for the invite. It's quite the honor, honestly, for me to even, really to be asked, so thanks a ton.
Oh man, pleasure's all mine. Well, how about that to kick off season 4? Jason shared a lot of wise words during that hour chat, but the one phrase that keeps repeating in my head is, make the fish deal with your fly. I hope that you all find a way to make a fish deal with your offering next time you're on the river. Interviews like that one and meeting people like Jason are the whole reason I created this show. I hope you all enjoyed that chat as much as I did. I hope it inspires you to pick up some materials from the Portland Fly Shop and start tying through the many awesome patterns posted on the shop's YouTube page. Or that it inspires you to make your way to the Portland area to stop by the shop and collect some intel before you hit the river to swing some flies. By the way, Jason started a podcast for the Portland Fly Shop not long after our interview. So I feel like I can pretend that I made this podcasting stuff sound so easy and fun that it may have influenced the creation of his new podcast. It's in the show notes like the other links that I mentioned, okay? So a big thank you to Jason for wasting an evening with me on the internet. Share it with your friends, would ya? Share all of my content with your friends, okay? If you have the guts. In return, I will share one more tidbit of Portland Weird with you before I close up shop on the first episode of the new season. I feel slightly obligated because it was briefly mentioned in the Polybius story before the interview. It's the Shanghai tunnels. I'm going to pull some info from a few sources, including OregonEncyclopedia.com. Since the 1970s, a myth has grown up that propounds the existence of a secret network of tunnels beneath the streets and buildings of the Portland waterfront. The tunnels are said to have been constructed to support the illegal practice of forcibly supplying crews to outbound sailing ships in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The practice was known as Shanghaiing, and the alleged tunnels are known today as Shanghai tunnels. If you've followed any of Catherine Austin Fitt's latest interviews on the podcast circuit, your mind might be wandering a bit, because all this secret underground space could have been potentially used in conjunction with the alleged $21 trillion black budget underground city that the 1% will use to weather the next Great Reset. While historians have found no evidence to substantiate the existence of a tunnel network, which is what they always say, the myth or cover story has persisted. The tunnels are said to have run between buildings and under streets in the downtown waterfront area, and to have extended west as far as Northwest 23rd Avenue and along the east bank of the Willamette River. Some 1,500 or more men are said to have been abducted annually. definitely not for any form of adrenochrome harvesting. Some people have claimed that the tunnels were used to facilitate kidnapping women for prostitution. The existence of the tunnels is alleged to have been purposely suppressed in order to protect Portland's and the whole race of lizard people's reputation. Shanghaiing describes the practice of kidnapping a man for service aboard a sailing ship. A Shanghaied sailor, usually drunk or incapacitated by knockout drops, was delivered by a crimp to a ship's captain shortly before sailing time, for which the crimp collected a fee, often known as blood money. By the way, a crimp is a good insult to call anyone you know, and Blood Money is a very good Tom Waits album that you should listen to. The extent of Shanghaiing in Portland is unknowable, but data compiled by Seamen's protective organizations, such as the Sailors Union of the Pacific, indicate that it was primarily a problem on ships in trans-Pacific trade and that it was common in West Coast ports on Puget Sound, the Columbia River, and especially San Francisco Bay. The development of large steam-powered ships that required trained crews to operate and that were financed, built, and managed by international corporations hastened the demise of sailing ships, as did reforms in international maritime law and its enforcement. Steamships also provided better working conditions and more stable employment for seamen, with the result that Shanghaiing had ceased by the end of World War I. By 1933, journalist Stuart Holbrook broadcast stories of Shanghaiing in bawdy times on the Portland waterfront in a series of romanticized articles in the Sunday Oregonian. For the record, none of them mentioned the mud flood. His stories, several of dubious authenticity, contributed to the emergence many years later of stories of a network of underground tunnels used for the Shanghai trade. In the 1970s, articles appeared in Portland newspapers featuring Michael P. Jones, manager of the Transit Bank, a social service agency in the Old Town area, who was identified as the person who discovered the long-hidden tunnels. If you're like me and are consistently entertained by the Tartaria or Old World theory, you have probably read the stories about most major cities having these vast underground networks, some more outlandish than others. I've read about banquets for the elites held in underground tunnels. There's also Phil Schneider's tale of shootouts with non-human intelligence in deep underground military bases in the New Mexico area. There's also tales of farmers unearthing completely out-of-place Egyptian-type artifacts under their land in the Midwest. Take your pick. They're all weird, and where there's smoke, there's fire, I think.
Right again, Matty boy.
Today, there's tours of the Shanghai tunnels. Such tours have been carried on under the auspices of Jones's Cascade Geographic Society since 1979. Maybe one of you listeners has taken the tour and can tell me all about it. Alright, that's it. Show's over. I rambled so long, and I barely scratched the surface of all the weird stuff Portland has to offer. What about D.B. Cooper? Didn't his infamous flight take off from the PDX airport? That mystery has never been solved, and it's pretty cool, but we all know that one. Did you know that Portland has a cryptozoology museum? Well, it's gone now because you all didn't visit it enough. Now I never will, and I blame you. I'm kidding, but that doesn't mean I'm not upset about it. They still have a place you can visit called the Freaky But True Peculiarium, which might be the corniest name for a place that you can visit that I've ever spoken about out loud. Is it as cool as the Cryptozoology Museum that closed? I don't know. You tell me. I could have mentioned that the Portland Pickles baseball team was once rocked by an indecent exposure scandal where their mascot was posting dick pics on Twitter, but that's the only fact about that. It's still funny though. I've done a few episodes that were Portland related in previous seasons and somehow never caught wind of the alleged tree octopus that Pacific Northwesterners tell tourists about when I tried to act like there was a freshwater octopus that lived in the Mackenzie River way back in episode 9 with Jim Sins. My bad. I unknowingly stole a joke and made it my own. Won't be the last time. At least I fess up, or is it one of those great minds think alike situations? Anyways, I like to wrap these episodes by sharing some content that I've been enjoying. For this recommendation, I will urge you to check out the American Alchemy podcast and YouTube channel hosted by Jesse Michaels. The channel has a ton of super interesting content, including interviews with Jacques Vallée, Danny Sheehan, Randall Carlson, David Grush, Joe McMoneagle, Hal Puthoff, Eric Weinstein, and many more. But the video that really blew my mind was a documentary called The CIA Scientist Who Cracked Anti-Gravity about T. Townsend Brown. This documentary explores the life and revolutionary work of Thomas Townsend Brown, a scientist who reportedly discovered a connection between electricity and gravity that could enable anti-gravity propulsion. The inspiration for the crazy Doc Brown character in the Back to the Future trilogy.
21 gigawatts!
In the 1920s, while experimenting with X-ray tubes at Denison University, Brown accidentally discovered that high-voltage devices produced thrust. This wasn't from X-rays, but from the high voltage itself, creating what would later be called the Biefeld-Brown effect, named after Brown and his professor Dr. Paul Biefeld. Some think this is why the B-2 bomber is named B-2 for Biefeld-Brown. Brown believed he had found evidence of a fundamental link between electromagnetism and gravity. His devices appeared to demonstrate that asymmetric electric charges could create directional force without conventional propulsion mechanisms. Brown's work laid the foundation for the field of electrogravitics, the proposed interaction between electricity and gravity for propulsion. His experiments with disc-shaped craft demonstrated this technology could potentially be used for aviation. While mainstream science has attributed Brown's observed effects to ionic wind, a well-understood phenomenon, the documentary presents evidence suggesting his discoveries went beyond conventional physics and may have been suppressed or classified. It's really fun and very interesting. Even more interesting if you've been reading about UFOs for the last 20 years because it connects a whole lot of names, places, and dots. Anyhow, watch it for yourself. I loved it. Another episode of Secret Society of Fly Tires is right around the corner. I'm not sure which episode I'm going to release next, or I'd tell you that right now. I'm sorry if you don't like surprises, but that's just the way it's gotta be. Thank you for listening, and thanks for sticking with me during the break between seasons 3 and 4. See you all next time.
I wonder what this commercial's gonna be about. You have no idea, but I do. I know just what I'm gonna sell you little piggies today. I bet you're dying to know. You're aching for it. You're gagging for it. Fine, I'll tell you. Today's episode of the Secret Society of Fly Tires is brought to you by the brand new Vital Elements Wash Rag. These soft, convenient flaps of super absorbent cloth are perfect for sopping, mopping, wiping, and cleaning all of your most sticky, viscous fluids. They were designed by the rag specialists at Vital Elements to be able to pick up even the most putrid of your bodily liquids. Yeah, you can use them to wipe up whatever you want, but the Vital Elements wash rags really shine when used to soak up things like blood, mucus, anal leakage, semen, spit, saliva, sperm, wet diarrhea, bile, pus, cerebral jelly, urine, phlegm, squirt, digestive juices, bone marrow, seminal fluid, sweat, ejaculate, and tears. If you're like me, you've got no shortage of any of these precious human drippings, and you're always in need of something with which to soak them up. I can't tell you how many of my Sunday suits I've ruined by using them to wipe one or more of these sacred sauces off of myself or a loved one. But no more thanks to Vital Elements. I use their fashionable absorbent wash rags to sop up my wettest of messes. I know it's hard to believe, but I would be even wetter without them. Thanks, Vital Elements. Please note that this is not a real advertisement, and the company, brand, entity, or product mentioned in the preceding ad in no way endorses, agrees with, or knows about this podcast.